Hi dear, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm good. Guess what? Masking the shofar it can't sound. It doesn't work.
Use something that's
We did. I used a mask. I used a piece of truss.
And get started.
Yes. Talk to you later.
Oh, thank you.
He said he would know. He said he would know.
Shabbat Shalom. It's wonderful to come into Shabbat tonight. We had nature encouraging us to think about rest and peace and coming indoors this afternoon. And we're reminded that the power of the universe is far beyond ourselves. And so it's times like this that we come together, whether here for the people who are joining us in our sanctuary or all the people who are joining us on our live stream. Shabbat Shalom to all of us. May this be a time of peace and reflection. Tonight we're delighted to have Virginia Weiner help lead our services, and we're so grateful to her for her stepping forward and leading us musically tonight, as she does in other places at Temple, but here in a more solo gig, and we're so glad to have her here. We're going to start our services with our lighting of the Shabbat candles, And we invite Arlene Green to join us on the bima for our candle lighting on page 120. And joining us for the Kiddush is Marcia Parness on page 123. Please rise. Please be seated. Sometimes when we welcome Shabbat, we welcome it as a Shabbat bride in Lecha Dodi. And sometimes when we welcome Shabbat as the angels that symbolically come to guide us into this evening. Tonight, we do that in Shalom Aleichem on page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzkem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, together on the bottom of page 145. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We will turn to our call to worship, the Baruch Hu, on page 146. Please rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamivorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. We read together on page 148 in the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokma poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, uma'avdio ben yom uven layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yumlok aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 151 in the middle. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. As we introduce the Shema, which is on the next page, we join in singing with Virginia, Open Up Our Eyes. If you want the words for that, it's on page 677, but make sure to keep your finger here because we're flipping right back to the Shema when we're done.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, know that you are one. We will know that you are one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated. Together on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol levavka uv'kol nafsheka uv'kol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzaveka hayom al levavecha Vishinantam livanecha vidibarta bam. Bishivteka bevetecha uvlekteka vaderech. Ushokbeka uvkumecha. Ukshartam leot aliadecha. Vehayula totafod beinenecha. Uktavtam amzuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai. V'hitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. Lihiot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet. Before I go on, for a private message to one person, Aaron, the V'ahavta is all with trope. So if you learn trope, you can do the V'ahavta perfectly and exactly the way it's sung. Page 157. The prayer at the bottom of the page we don't do most of the time, but there are times when the world's events force us to use these words to remind us about the violence that is out there and our continued efforts for peace every day. We read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Mi Chamocha on page 158. Page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. A prayer for peace above us and around us. Hashkivenu on the facing page.
Hashkivenu
continue with the Tefillah and invite up onto the Bima Jody Ann Herman and Suzanne Rosenberg to help us with the Ark. And page 164, using the even-numbered pages only, please rise. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufiyahi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaHanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mikayeh HaKol, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mikalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mikayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somek Noflim Verofek Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umikayeh Memunato, Lishene Afar, Mikamocha Bal Givurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umikayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lakayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mikayeh hakol, Atah kadosh v'shimka kadosh, Ikadoshim b'chol yom yhalalu kasela, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh. Together, you are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Together on the top of 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. We need a song for peace. Every week we need one, but this has been a particularly hard week in the world. We share our prayer of peace, Shalom Rav, page 178.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon, lehol hashalom.
We continue with our own private prayers in silence.
Oh, say shalom bimromav. Uya say shalom aleinu. Ve'akol Yisrael. Himru amen. Yahaseh shalom. Yahaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael. 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 Yahaseh shalom. Yahaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael.
Healing is the theme that surrounds us constantly and continually in all our lives, but for the last year and a half most especially. So we think now of people who need our strength and healing, people who strive so hard to stay healthy and good and things happen upon them, people who live in parts of this country and this world where their leaders are not letting them find the best opportunities for healing that they could, and all those who struggle in pain. We think especially of our temple members, Elaine Wall, Ronnie Heller, Jamie Stern, Leah Stern, Joan Lipton, Arlene Green, Elise Leibowitz, Roberta Traeger, Jody Ann Herman, Judith Lacasio, Rochelle Weinberg, Don Levy, Meg Levine, and also Keith Bedell and Judith Rubin. And I'd like to make a note of one of the person who's always on our healing list, Sadie Rosenkrantz. She celebrated her 111th birthday on Thursday. But as we are happy and wish her blessings, we also must send a lot of healing and hope you don't get to 111 without a lot of healing prayers needed all the time. We invite you to share people in your life who you're thinking of for healing, whether sharing them in the chat if you're on the live stream or sharing them out loud as I point in your direction in the congregation. For all of those needing healing, we join in our Mishaberach of healing in the middle of page 371.
find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberak imotenu mekor habrehah vayamotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. Tonight I'd like to share with you a fable. A fable is a story that definitely didn't happen, but it speaks to things that might have happened, and it teaches us lessons about how the world works, even if in the actual story it couldn't have happened that way. This is a fable written by Rabbi Edwin Friedman. Rabbi Friedman is a well-known family therapist and pastoral educator until the DC area, until he died a decade or so ago. I don't know when the original fable was written, but this version was published more than 30 years ago. So if you think he's speaking about something, well, maybe he was without knowing it. This is the power of belief. One evening, a man came home and announced that he was dead. Immediately, some of his neighbors tried to show him how foolish this notion was. He walked, and dead men cannot move themselves. He was talking, he was thinking, his brain was functioning, and he was breathing. And that, after all, is the quintessence of living. But none of these arguments had any effect. No matter what reason was brought to bear against his position, no matter how sensible the argument, the man maintained that he was dead. He parried their thrusts with ingenious skill. He seemed to have a way of constantly putting the burden of proof on the other. He never quite came right out and said, "Prove it," but that was the message implied, not so much by how he answered as by how he avoided giving any answer at all. Every now and then someone thought, "Now I've pinned him down," having brought evidence so obvious no one could deny it. But then he would use his trump. "If I am dead, you do not exist either, since the living surely do not traffic with the dead." Eventually, most of his friends and neighbors quit arguing, and the handful who were left, including his own family, became increasingly afraid. Several reached the same conclusion. He had gone mad. Or at the very least, he was suffering some erratic mental process. Exhaustion from work, perhaps. A brain tumor. He needs rest. We'll call a doctor, perhaps a psychiatrist, maybe the family physician, or a minister. The man, however, was not upset by these suggestions. He shrugged them off without reply and finally said, "I don't know what's the matter with you all. It is just absurd to think of as a dead man as tired, let alone sick." His wife, almost literally beside herself, took to carrying on a dialogue within. If he believes this, then how can he say that? If he does that, how can he think this? As the mixture of fear and frustration thickened, it was finally agreed that outside help must be called. A psychiatrist was invited over to interview him. After some preliminary greetings and a few routine questions, the doctor asked to see the man alone. He readily agreed. The two went into another room and closed the door. Now and then an elevated voice broadcast itself over the transom, although nothing could be understood. It was clear, however, that the voice they heard getting louder and louder always belonged to the psychiatrist. Sometime later, both men emerged. The doctor had his jacket over his arm, his necktie had been loosened, and his collar opened. In fact, the button was no longer even there. As for the man, he seemed totally unchanged. "Hopelessly psychotic," muttered the psychiatrist. "You will have to have him committed. He has lost all awareness of reality. If you want, I'll call the hospital and see if they have room." "Now really," said the man calmly, "what kind of therapy would you prescribe for a dead man?
Surely, sir, if it were known that you had even tried to cure a man who is not alive, talking about losing one's grip on reality. The doctor started to answer, caught himself, and then with a measured calm said to the others, I haven't had dinner yet. If you want to call the hospital, give me a ring. A clergyman was sought. The family minister was unavailable. Which type would be best? The modern kind who had some sophistication about psychological problems, or perhaps a good old-fashioned fundamentalist? Let's fight fire with fire, said someone. As it happened, that evening a well-known evangelist was in town to speak at a nearby theater. When he heard about the problem, he rushed over, thinking how his success might be used to introduce his show. Once again, the group was left to strain after the voices behind the closed doors. Again, nothing that was audible. Again, the rising tone. Again, never the man's voice rising. This time, the clergyman came out alone, stopped, looked at everyone, nervously kissed his little black book, and walked out the door. Several cautiously peeked into the room. The man was fast asleep. It was now decided that the family doctor should be called. He had known the man since he was a little boy, and besides being a physician with a reputation for patience and skill, he was respected everywhere for his homey wisdom. He came quickly, and after one or two questions in front of everyone, asked the man in a no-nonsense way, Tell me, do dead men bleed? Of course not, said the man. Then, said the doctor, would you allow me to make a small cut in your arm? I will treat it. There's no reason to worry about infection, and we can see once and all whether you are dead. Dead men do not get infections, nor do they bleed, doctor, said the man, and he proceeded to roll up his sleeve. With everyone watching anxiously, the doctor deftly slit the flesh, and blood came spurting out. There was a gasp of joy throughout the group. Some laughed, others even applauded, though a few seemed rather to be relieved. The doctor quickly dressed the wound and turned to everyone, saying, Well, I hope that puts an end to this foolishness. Everyone was congratulating the physician when suddenly they realized that the man was headed for the door. As he opened it, he turned to the group and said, I see that I was wrong. And then as he turned to leave, he added, Dead men, in fact, do bleed. We live in a time where truth, facts, and science are often tossed to the side by some people, where no matter what we say, show, or argue, we will be told that dead men do bleed. We continually try change hearts and minds, whether it is about elections or racial injustice or global warming or COVID vaccines or much more. We strive to help make veracity into reality. Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech in Detroit shortly before he died called The Other America. While he spoke about racism and quoted the New Testament, he encouraged our holding strong on all of these issues, even when others were arguing that dead men bleed. Dr. King said, I still believe that freedom is the bonus you receive for telling the truth. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set ye free. And I do not see how we will ever solve the turbulent problem of race confronting our nation until there is an honest confrontation with it and a willing search for the truth and a willingness to admit the truth when we discover it. Over 50 years later, on any of those issues, people still will not confront the truth. They will not look at the honesty of the day. They will not search, and they will not admit the truth when they see it. Because no matter how many times others may say, it doesn't make it so just because they say it. Dead men don't bleed. Stick to truth and science, and may we all keep striving to make veracity into reality. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to share some simchas now, good things that have happened to us. If you're on the live stream, please feel free to put it into the chat if something good has happened so people can see it. And if you're here in the sanctuary and something good has happened to you or your family in recent days or upcoming moments, just Just raise your hand. I'll come over to you with the mic. Please speak loudly into the mic. And before you speak, tell us your first and last name so that people joining us in the live stream know who is speaking, since they can't necessarily see you.
Hi, I'm Arlene Green. After a year of this, I'm getting my hair cut on Tuesday.
Our son, Amy Geff and George Shapiro. Our son, Andrew, who's from Austin, Texas, drove in his RV over 1,700 miles to Newburgh, New York, and rented a car to come see us. We saw him Tuesday with our other son and daughter-in-law for dinner.
Marcia Parness, and I celebrated my 23rd wedding anniversary, and I am happy that Maya and Noah both had Shabbat dinner tonight at Hillel at their respective universities.
Scott Scheidlauer. Last week I had said I was going up to New Paltz to see my mom, and I did, and she's been very upset because she's had a problem for years with her eyes, and she's suddenly discovering that she's having this problem, even though she's had it for years. And by using my problems with my disability, I was able to calm her down. So I'm very happy about that, and I'm very grateful to God for that.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Rosenberg, and I'm going back to my maiden name and in the process, so you might slowly hear about it, Smiley, so I'll be known soon as Smiley. But anyway, I celebrated my 7th decade of life today, and it is simply marvelous.
Happy birthday, Suzanne.
Hi, I'm Karen Davidowitz. Our grandson, who lives in Berlin, called last Sunday, and I thought something was wrong. And I said, Jonathan, why are you calling? And he said, I heard that a big storm is coming to New York. I wanted to see if you and Grandpa are okay.
Jordy Herman and my mom's boyfriend pulled through his bypass, his pacemaker surgery. He's fine, and getting nuclear glasses next week.
We're so glad to have blessings to hold on to and share with each other. We need them to keep us each going. When we stumble and fall, may there's somebody always be around to help pick us up and lead us to something good. And may we always turn behind us as we're running ahead to joy and check all the people who are stumbling behind us and help them walk forward too. We move to the Aleinu now, which is in the middle of page 586, and we invite Neil and Jill Manis to join us on the bima. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer breishi, shelo asanu kegoye aratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu Korim, Umishtakabim, Umodim, Lifmelech, Malkei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'ne'emar, V'haya Adonai, L'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushmo, Ushmo, Ushmo echad. Please be seated. We think now of people we miss very much, family and friends who have passed from this earth, and those who are always part of our heart and our soul. This week we think of all of those killed in Afghanistan, Americans, those who support America over the years, and people all throughout Afghanistan who have no interest in war, but have every interest in peace. In our congregation, we're especially remembering those whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing, occurs at this time. Daniel Banks, Danielle Berger, Bertie Best, Henrietta Caesar, Ethel Canner, Hyman Cohen, Monica Cristando, Harris Farber, Belle Feldman, Celia Foyer, Jacob Glasser, Sadie Glickman, Nellie Godorov, Jacob Goldstein, Sheldon Grossman, Leonard Herman, Samuel Hoffman, Pauline Jacobson, Sidney Kamnitzer, Rosal Kroll, Selig Lesser, Jacob Levitt, Samuel Levy, Virginia Levy, Agnes Manson, James Matthew, Albert Meshmar, Herman Noah, Carol Parness, Deanna Perlstein, Rachel Prager, Dora Rauch, Leo Reinheimer, May Rosenblatt, Ray Schickman, Saul Schickman, Annie Schulman, Kurt Schwab, Jacqueline W. Shapiro, Dorothy Silverman, Mary Tripp, Harry Weidenfeld, Etta Weinstein, Anna Weisfeld, Louis Zeitchik. We add to those names that each of you are thinking, whether you put them on the chat online or share them out loud at this time. For all those we miss today and every day, we join together in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach ruteh v'amlik malchuteh, b'chayachon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mivarak Leolam Almei Almaya, Yitbarak V'yishtabak V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei D'Kudusha B'rechu, Le'ela Minko Birkata V'shirata, Tushbekata V'nekamata, Damiran Be'alma V'yamru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yamru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael, v'yamru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to every broken heart among us. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. A few announcements for upcoming days. There's some things coming up you might have heard about. Make sure we know what's going on. First, our deep thanks to Virginia for stepping in and leading music tonight and sharing her voice and her soul so beautifully with all of us. It's such a privilege to have you share with us tonight. Thanks to Jill and Bertie for being our greeters this evening. Neil, when he gives the announcements, mentions our musicians, and Cantor sometimes gets to talk about the musicians, but I never get to. So I'm going to use tonight, where both Cantor is away and I am the one giving announcements, to take some personal privilege. First, our thanks to Mark Pollack, who's recently joined us on percussion and shared with us the last number of weeks and added so much to our musicians. To Joe Davidian, who's been the stalwart of our musical program here at Temple. Not only does he play incredible piano, as you know, but he actually directs our musicians, helps our guest musicians, and is an incredible help to me every time I have to lead something in music, in keeping me calm and in changing the key. So he's doing great things. And to Bonnie McAlvin, who is really our MVP musician, because a few years ago I never would have said that the flute would become the most instrumental sound of Shabbat, Reformed Temple of Forest Hills, that I couldn't imagine Shabbat without the flute. And then with COVID being a direct
affront to her musical abilities, and she's found ways to keep it safe and still absolutely beautiful, both in our sanctuary and online. So Mark and Joe and Bonnie, thank you for all you bring to our congregation so often, and we're looking forward to all the music you will bring on the high holidays. For communal safety, we are continuing not to have food in the temple, but I hope, is there a to-go-neg? Does anybody know? There might be a to-go-neg on the way out. If there is, take the food and eat it. Religious school registration is open, so please make sure if you haven't signed up your kid for any grade from K through 12, make sure to do that. Torah study continues. We're still doing really interesting things in the book of Numbers, and you never read the book of Numbers. I guarantee you've skipped over the book of Numbers your whole life. So join us in Torah studies. We're doing some really fascinating stuff. Tomorrow night is the official beginning of the high holiday season with Slichot. We'll have an 8:30 program here in the ballroom where we'll be showing the video short Joe's Violin. And then at 10 o'clock, we will have Slichot services here in the sanctuary. On live stream, you can join Slichot for the 10 o'clock service. The movie program will not be done on live stream, copyright issues and such. High holidays are, of course, coming. Everyone should be ready to join us, rtfh.org/live for pretty much every one of the services. Please feel free to give that link out to family, to friends who might want to join us for it. And as I wrote in Wednesday's e-blast, I remind you, treat it like it's the high holidays. Don't treat it like it's some YouTube video you're going to check out. Dress for it, set your place in the house for it, have a meal to go with it. Treat it like it's the high holidays, and then it'll mean something. Treat it like it's just something you're casually watching on your computer, and it'll be something you casually watch on your computer. So we look forward to sharing the high holidays, sadly, primarily over live stream. Because we're going to be on live stream, we're not going to have prayer books to hand out. So if you would like to borrow a Machzor, the high holiday prayer books for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you can do so tonight. For those of you who are here in the sanctuary, and at upcoming at any weekday hours when the office is open, if you want to come by the temple, or next Friday night, or tomorrow night at Slichot. Audrey is going to be helping that after services in the back of the lobby if you'd like to borrow a Machzor so you can follow along easier at home. The prayers will not be put on the screen, so your best bet is either to buy or borrow a Machzor. And thanks, Erin. I would like to give special note to our beautiful flowers, which our resident Tom Thumb in Temple, Juan. You all know Juan, but you may not know that this is Juan's superpower. He can make anything grow beautifully, a sort flower. Our backyard is blossoming because of him, and he helps make our flowers look particularly beautiful for all times. So note that. Thanks to all of you for being here, and whether you're here in person or online, we're glad to celebrate Shabbat with you. We're going to turn to the Motzi, and I'm going to invite Aaron to come on up and help me with this. Come on up, Aaron. Come stand right here so everyone can see you. And we're going to join the Motzi, and if you want to grab a piece of challah on the way out, that's perfectly fine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Our closing song is Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, which is on what page?
I'm not sure.
625. Is that right? Nope, that's not right.
Written up.
657? It's in the back.
Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'akulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'akulam. Salam Aleinu
Next week's Shabbat service is at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all soon. Shabbat Shalom.
Sounded beautiful.
Yes, it is that not like cut too so that you can do it?
No, this is my when I'm not playing, and then this when I'm playing. But I think I should put a black one because it looks. I always think it looks weird. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.